Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for Broadway World. Gaten Matarazzo, who is known to millions of fans for playing Dustin on the hit Netflix series Stranger Things, is returning to Broadway, stepping into the role of Jared in the Tony Award-winning Best Musical, Dear Evan Hansen, beginning on July 19th. And I caught up with Gaten here at the Civilian. I'm so excited to be sitting with you.
Thank you.
Your fans at Broadway World cannot wait for you to return to Broadway. How excited are you?
I'm over the moon. I wake up every morning and I can't even believe that it's actually happening. And every day there's just a little bit more anxiety as we get closer to the run. I open in Oive, I think, a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just bananas at this point, and I'm super, super stoked.
Okay, I want to know, when did you find out you were returning to Broadway, and how did you keep it a secret?
Oh, it was really, really hard, actually. I told a bunch of my people. Yeah, I'm cool to say that now because I'm in it. It's announced, but
It's only a week away.
Yeah, I told way too many people when I first got it. I booked in April. I booked at the end of April, I think, and I started auditioning, or I got the call to audition. I got it just sent in the end of March. Or at the beginning of April. So it's about a month-long process, I remember, of training for the audition and making sure that I was all good for that. And all my focus was on that. It was really weird. It was like making sure that like the music was good, my sides were good, because it's a challenging role. It's a challenging role vocally. Jared's a really high track, and so I was just building up my stamina, my range, and working on that. And then once I booked, it was immediate elation followed by like a complete wave of like, oh, this is going to actually have to happen now. And then it was a 2-month process of like working towards it and getting to that point. And now I've been rehearsing with them since the end of June.
Okay, what does this show mean to you personally? I know this is a show you love.
I love the show. I saw it with the original cast. I saw it again later on in its run when Andrew Barth Feldman was starring in it. And it really, really cool. It was the first time its themes are very, very personal. Its themes are intense. It handles them, I think, in a very unique way. I think it balances humor through it, which is really hard to do. And that's something that my character, that Jared has to do throughout his tenure in the show. And that's been hard to manage. It's been hard to figure out a line, you know. And it's meant everything, and it articulated things to me in which that had never been articulated in that way before, and it made me realize a lot about myself, about the world around me, around the people in my life who were struggling in very similar ways to some of these characters in the show, and taught me a lot, and it continues to teach me a lot as I rehearse, and I'm sure it will as the run starts.
Okay, how cool is it to be back in New York City?
I love it.
You got an apartment here now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in rehearsal now. What's it like being back in a rehearsal room with people again for Broadway?
Oh, it's perfect. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm so glad that this is a great time to do it. You know, I mean, like it's still the precautions that are being taken to make sure that everybody can do it safely and healthy is really important, and we've been managing it quite well, which has been great. And I'm just glad that we even have the opportunity to be in the room together and going through it. And it's long days. I mean, it's long days, but fun days. They don't feel long. They're starting to.
Yeah. Because you started as a Broadway kid. I knew you, of course, from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is where you made your Broadway debut. Okay, so what do you remember? I mean, they're magical Broadway debuts. They only happen once, and you did yours at the Palace Theater.
I know.
What do you remember about that night or that day?
That night specific. I remember very little, I think, of a good portion of that run. I was quite young. I was only 9. And so there was a lot of it that's just like, I think before you're 13, like a lot of the memories kind of just like morph in a weird way. But I remember specifically my first time going out on stage on my opening night. I always will. And because it was so important, there was such a rush. I remember being backstage and like jumping up and down and like shaking, and our child guardian, Jill, because there's always important that there's a guardian backstage for the kids in the show. She gave me the biggest hug, and she's like, I know you're going to love this, and you're going to be amazing. And yeah, and it's funny because it's not like I come running in from one of the wings. There's a curtain that I bust through, like right through onto like center stage, like immediately. So it's like you run through and you're there right at center stage. And I looked up and I was like, oh, cool. So I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And I was 9 years old, and I was like, cool. This is the most incredible feeling I think one could possibly feel. And it was like from there that I was just in love. Yeah.
Once you get that, it's in your
That's
DNA. It's in it's there forever.
Forever. Mm-hmm.
Now, Jessica Phillips,
Yeah.
Heidi
I
Hansen,
know.
was in the show
so
with you,
amazing.
right?
Yeah. She was my mom in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and now she's in Dear Evan Hansen with me, and reconnecting with her has been an absolute blast. I haven't seen her too much just yet because I've been in the rehearsal room, and so a lot of times the covers for the show come in and help you rehearse, which is insane because they have such a grueling schedule anyway. They're rehearsing tracks all the time, and they're at the theater every single day, and throughout the afternoon a lot of the times they're coming in and watching us get our stuff together, which is I'm sure an eye roll for them since they've been cycling through and they know the track like the back of their hand, and we're here like, what's my line? So, and they're just genius. But I got to shadow the other night and be in the theater during the show day, and it was just brilliant. It was amazing.
Okay, explain what shadowing is. I think that's the best thing in the world when you get.
It's perfect. Yeah, so when you get close to your run, a lot of times it's easy to remember, like, you know your lines, you know your music, you know what you're doing on stage, but a lot of times it's important to know what the day is like, what the show and your process of, like, when you're getting dressed, where you're getting dressed, where you have to be and when, and what the wing space is like during the show, getting a feel for what other people are doing so you can be aware of where not to be specifically. And Dan Mack was on for Jared that night, and he's finishing his run this week, and it was a brilliant run, a very long run with the show. He's been in it for a while, and he was such a big help.
Because the backstage track is just as important as the onstage track.
Oh, it's a well-oiled machine that you are. It's weird. It's like you need to be doing exactly what you need to do, and it can't really shift. It's like you're a cog in a machine that needs to function. So like, and you're replacing one in the middle of its big run, and so it's a lot of pressure to make sure you know what to do and not be in the way. That's my
Don't stand here. Don't stand there.
Exactly. That's my worst fear. I was literally just like, put me where you need to put me, and I will just stand here and watch like Good Little Boy. I was like, yeah.
So you also returned to Broadway in Les Mis.
I did, actually, very shortly after Priscilla.
Okay, and you played.
I was Gavroche.
I just wanted you to hear you say it. That's all. I mean, how was it cool, like being on the barricades and everything else and playing that role?
It was my dream role. It still is my dream role. I've already played it for 2 years. I did it on Broadway. I toured with it for about a year beforehand, a little less than a year beforehand, and it's what got me into theater. My first big audition was for the tour. I didn't book, and it was like the white whale, and I was like, please let me do this. And it was the last leg of the tour, and they were like, we're auditioning one more time. I was already tall, and I'd been going in over and over again, and I knew them. Like, I would walk into the audition room like, hey, Gaten's here, and I would go and hugs and high fives, and I'd be like, hey guys, good to see you again. I see you every 2 months when you audition again. And it was that one where they were like the kind of, they brought my mom in, like, after, which I never really do after my audition. They're like, hey, I think he's ready. It was the craziest thing, and it never usually goes that way. And yeah, it was shipped off to the tour right after that. They transitioned to Toronto. I didn't go to Toronto, so I figured that would be the end of my run. And I was called in for the callbacks for the Broadway run because I was away for the open call. And so I assumed it was like, because you'd been in the show, it was more of like a hat nod, like, we'll see you in and like send you off with like a nice goodbye. And then me and Josh Colley, who had both toured before, we booked it and we ran with it for a year. Wow. Yeah.
It's like you'll grow into Marius.
Yeah, hopefully. Or I'm done growing, so if they want a 5'4" Marius.
Totally. We'll go and see that in a second.
You're like, yeah, the Marius is little. Gavroche is taller than him. Yeah.
Okay, so last night you, of course, were on the carpet for the opening night of Into the Woods.
Yes, I was.
Wasn't that exciting? Because, I mean, you got to play Jack in the Hollywood Bowl one with Bettina Miller.
Yeah, with Bettina.
All right, how cool was it doing this at the Hollywood Bowl?
Oh, it was brilliant. It was just, I don't know why I was there. It was like one of those where I showed up at the first day of rehearsal, and Skylar Aston was our baker, Sutton Foster was our baker's wife, Bettina Miller was our witch, and Tony Cravella was our mysterious man, and it was brilliant seeing people who I not only looked up to and admired, but just wanted to emulate. Like, people who, like, you hear the names and it's just like absolutely, if I ever got to meet this person, the amount of questions that I would have. And then the first time meeting them is when you get to work with them, even if it was for just a few weeks. And it really was, I was more of just an observer there than I just wanted to sit back and watch and take it all in. And I remember from that whole process of like, I'm not taking this one for granted. Absolutely not. And to see Bettina do it again is brilliant. Her in that role has grown just so wonderfully, and it was perfect when she was there at the bowl. I'm like, it can't get any better. And then I saw it last night, and I'm like, cool. So she made it better because she's Bettina Miller, and she's brilliant.
Well, my last question for you is, well, we have to talk about Stranger Things. It's a two-part question because, first of all, what did that role and that show mean to you? And because of your success of Stranger Things, you're going to be introducing a whole new audience to live theater. As it all happened to us, because we all had that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be life-changing, what that means to you.
It's amazing. It was such a transition afterwards because I just finished Les Mis when I went into it. And a couple of months. I ended my run in Les Mis in March. I started filming Stranger Things in September. It was that quick of a process going back into it, and it was supposed to be a very small show, quick filming process. It was supposed to film in New York, and so I was like, I'll just try it, and it ended up blowing up, and it ended up becoming my whole life at that point. And at that point, I was just like, I stopped like singing, I stopped like worrying about theater at that point, and I was just like, something doesn't feel right, and so like I just knew I needed to get back into it in some capacity. And that role has taught me so much. Film and television has taught me so much. It gave me a real love for the craft of acting specifically. I think before that, I was like, in a way, going through the motions when I was doing shows and stuff, and I was just there more to have fun. I guess most 12-year-olds are. They're not like, most 12-year-olds aren't like, I'm in it, I'm here. I'm here for the craft, you know. And it was that show that kind of taught me my love of what I did, and thankfully I did love it. And and using the kind of subtleties in film and television and kind of bringing them into theater is really, really fun. You have more of an opportunity to do that now that mics work really, really well. This house is really small. It's the Music Box is not a huge theater, and so even if you're in the back of the house, you've got a pretty good view of people's faces. So you can kind of dial in a sense of subtlety, a sense of what you might use in film and television in that theater. At least it's what I tried to bring a little bit, just because it's what I'm used to, and there's gonna be growing pains for sure, and I'm excited to kind of see how my character morphs from opening night to closing. I've always wanted to record my opening night and then record my closing night with the role, just to see what happened there and just to see what a shift there was. So I'm excited to be conscious of that and take what I learn here and bring it to what I do next, whatever that may be.
Welcome back to Broadway, my
Thanks
friend.
so
This has
much.
been really great.